also lost control of the Senate.
There's certainly going to be a lot of discussions and deep soul.
And good morning and welcome to the video live stream, the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. My guest in studio this morning, I'm honored to have Al Pashulka here. Al Pashulka, how are you doing, sir?
Late night, and early morning.
A political, you are a political machine. You know just about everything about Michigan politics. Did you get any sleep at all?
I think from about 3:30 to maybe 5 o'clock. I might have got about 90 minutes in, but as we were talking about before, I was texting a bunch of people last night, and some of the most revealing texts actually came from some of my colleagues who I served with, who were on the other side of the aisle, who served in the Democratic Party. And I got friends over there, and we were kind of texting right around midnight, and finally about 2 o'clock. They started, I think, which will be a very long autopsy, as they tried to break it down, and they said, we went too far on policy, is what one of them said, and the other one said, we simply lost our way with labor, with some of the working class folks out there that Donald Trump was able to attract.
People vote with their pocketbooks. There was no question about it, and there was nothing either party could do about it other than say what they might do if they got into office.
Well,
but the party in power is punished.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, coming into this, and Vice President Harris was at a significant disadvantage.
Yes,
I mean, the polling numbers for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, their approval rating was 41%. Nobody's ever won with a 41% approval rating. And the other interesting stat that was out there was when Americans were asked, is the country going in the right direction or wrong direction? It was 70-30 going in the wrong direction. And you're right. Folks are voting their pocketbooks. And traditionally in presidential elections, they do. And they did not have an answer for inflation. They did not have an answer for some of the economic issues. And then you started to see the realignment that happened not only in Michigan, but really across the country.
Which realignment?
Some of those. And by realignment, I mean, everybody plays identity politics. Republicans do it. Democrats do it. What's happened here, though, and early on last night, I think it was on CNN, they said Trump was polling at 23 to 25% among black males. And when I heard that number, I thought, she can't win.
Yeah.
There's no way she can win if that holds in Philly and Detroit and Dallas and some of these major metropolitan areas. And that's ultimately, I don't know what the final number was, but Latino men and African-American men started pulling the other way, which dragged her numbers down across the country and especially in those swing states.
That seemed very true. We will have to peel back the numbers. We've got to get to news here in just a moment. We'll recap some of the local elections and the statewide races, but it does seem true, and it seems like they noticed that way too late. Too late, because I mean we had former President Bill Clinton here in Benton Harbor trying to get out the black vote. We'll see what the numbers tell, but I think it was too little too late.
He was also in that same day, Muskegon Heights, Benton Harbor, South Haven, and Battle Creek.
Yeah.
And what that told me was ruh-roh.
Yeah. All right. We've got to get back here in just a moment. Al Pashulka is our guest this morning. We're going to talk about politics, so get ready.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
7:05. Good morning. Welcome to the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. Have a special guest in studio this morning. This hour, we're going to talk with Al Pashulka. And if you know Al, he knows a lot about politics, state politics. We'll talk about national politics. We'll talk about politics. I mean, you know, some of the numbers coming in overnight. I mean, it's just astounding how close they are and where they broke.
Yeah, no, I figured everybody figured this was going to be a close race. All the polls had it really close, but in those swing states, when those numbers
talking about the presidential
pop on the presidential, the question was, how long are the coattails?
Yeah.
How many more is he going to drag over? So if you look at a state like Ohio, also in the Midwest, he won Ohio by 10. He won Florida by 14. He won Iowa by 14. Remember, there was a poll out that said Trump was going to lose Iowa from the Des Moines Register.
Yeah, surprising at the last minute poll.
You can't poll this guy.
Yeah.
The polling, they've gotten it wrong 3 times in a row. And it almost leads me to believe they're doing it on purpose. I mean, they haven't polled Trump right ever.
Yeah.
And it happened again. And but it was the margins. So, and that's why he took the national popular vote, because in New York, he did 11 points better. In New Jersey, he did 7 or 8 points better. And so you see those vote totals start to go up. It was just a crazy evening. It really was.
Yeah. So we'll unpack that and a whole lot more. We'll give you some local results in just a moment, and then we'll talk back with Al about what that means, what it means when everything is said and done and certified. But first, taking a look at the weather outside, we've got 55 degrees. As you head outside, it's going to be mostly cloudy skies. I don't see any precipitation at this point, but we do have a chance of precipitation, rain later today. Actually, later this morning, 58 degrees is where we're going to top out for a high. West winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight's forecast, partly cloudy, a low around 40, little chilly, light winds from the north. Tomorrow's forecast, partly sunny, a high around 57. The north wind will continue 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's a look at some of the state and local election results. This was somewhere around 89% reporting, so we still have some votes to see in there, and that's going to matter big in the U.S. Senate race. So Republican Mike Rogers, at last check, still leading Democrat Alyssa Slotkin by less than 1%, probably 0.3% difference there. And I mean, it's way too close to call. So we're talking about.
So they're calling that the Rogers Slotkin race the closest Senate race in 100 years.
Jeez. Yeah.
I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
That may end up being a recount.
Well, in fact, I'm just looking at the new numbers, and I bet it will be, because updated 3 minutes ago, they're both at 2.6 million. And I'm looking at the actual numbers, 5,000 votes separate them.
Wow.
Fewer than 5,000 votes are separate them, or somewhere around that.
Yeah, out of over 5 million. So,
yes. Yeah.
Hey, if you think your vote doesn't count, guess what?
Yeah, guess what? It does. If you didn't vote, don't sleep. So that race is too close to call. But it does appear on the national scale that the U.S. Senate has gone to Republican control.
Yeah, at 51 right now, but there may be 3 or 4 more that may break for Republicans before they're done. You're talking about the Rogers race, and there's Nevada, and there's a couple other races out there that. So Trump could be walking in with at least the United States Senate, right, which would allow him some flexibility in getting his cabinet posts.
Sure, yeah, get all the vetting
and
through.
getting those through. Because you're always going to have maybe 1 or 2 Republicans who say, well, no, I don't like that guy.
Right.
Or a female. I don't like that woman.
Yep.
And not be able to get them through. But same thing for Supreme Court.
Yes.
So
very true. And that was a big issue played up by the sides in this race as well.
Yeah.
So U.S. House of Representatives, District 4 and 5, both those races are settled. Incumbents Bill Huizenga and Tim Walberg won handily, 57-41% in Huizenga's race, 65-32 in Walberg's race.
And Republicans also picked up a congressional seat in mid-Michigan, fellow that I served with in the legislature, Tom Barrett, who is
was that Slotkin's seat?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Slotkin's seat, and running against Curtis Hertel, very well-known name in Michigan, the Hertel name. And I served with Curtis as well. But Tom Barrett is a helicopter pilot who served, I think, in Afghanistan, and it's got 4 kids. You think about, the brochure you can make for this guy, right? It's central casting, and he actually had a pretty easy victory last night.
Okay,
so that with the Republicans picked up a seat in Michigan. I know the John James race was pretty close too.
We'll have to look that
and
one
up. I think John James ended up winning that, but only because Trump carried Macomb County by 8 or 9 points.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
State House races, looking at districts 37 through 39, incumbents winning there. We've got Brad Paquette, 62-37 against Democrat Angela Jones. Incumbent Democrat Joey Andrews. This race flip-flopped a couple of times, but it looks like he's defeating Kevin Whiteford 52 to 47%. And incumbent Republican Pauline Wenzel is the declared winner over Democrat Carrie Tapper, 62 to 37%. What does that do for the House?
Well, it looks like the Michigan House will be back in Republican control. Gongwer's calling it 58-52. So that means the Republicans picked up 4 seats last night. I know they picked up 1 downriver. I think they got 1 in Macomb, and they must have got a couple of more out there. But those were the seats that they were really targeting, and those are areas. And I think the other one was Macomb. Those are the areas that are known as the Reagan Democrats.
Okay,
both in Macomb and those downriver areas, Taylor, Wyandotte. And I walk those doors, and great place to walk. And you see Red Wings flags in the garage and Harley Davidsons.
Oh boy.
And we at that time had a moderate Republican state representative that those guys really liked. And they normally really like their incumbents, but they flipped a downriver seat that the Democrats had won a couple of cycles ago.
In a couple of minutes, I want to explore what that means for the state legislature, because just so if you look at what was there earlier this week, you had a Democrat governor, Democrat Senate, Democrat House, and now you've got a Democrat governor who might be thinking, hey, I've got a shot in 4 years for president of the United States, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Democrat Senate, and the House is now flipped to Republican, whereas you have on the national side, Donald Trump looks to be the victor there, with the Electoral College now at 276 for him, 223 for Harris, and a Republican Senate, and probably, I think it's safe to say, probably a Republican House.
Well, here's what I'll say to, I talked about my Democratic friends.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say to my Republican friends.
Get some stuff done.
Don't spike the ball.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, be Barry Sanders. Act like you've been there before.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the Michigan House, the big thing about flipping the House is you get all the committee chairmanships, and you control the speaker, and you control the agenda in the House. And the Michigan Senate is at 20 to 18. It's very close.
Yeah.
So the governor is a political animal. She understands this. She'll be able to operate in that type of environment. Remember, Gretchen Whitmer was the minority leader in the Senate for a number of years. She's only really been in control for a short amount of time, 4 to 6 years, and she's been in Lansing a long time. So I think she knows how to maneuver. There's things that I know she still wants to get done, but now it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But hey, look at it this way, Ken.
Yeah.
We might get some really good policy out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the shining. That's the silver lining on the cloud there. We are talking with Al Pacholka. He has joined us as our guest this morning to help us go through some of the election results. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We're still in news, believe it or not. We've got sports coming up in a couple of minutes, but we were talking about the state house races, and we knew the 38th district was going to be tight. Kevin Whiteford was leading last night. State Representative Joey Andrews, we caught up with him at a watch party, and he told us he knew this was going to be an uphill climb.
We were acutely aware coming into the re-election campaign that it had been 60 years, basically, since the last time a Democrat had been elected, and that at no time had a Democrat ever won re-election in this area after being elected. So, knowing that, we knew that we had to work really hard to make sure that people knew we had their backs, we're fighting for them in Lansing, that we're going to deliver for Southwest Michigan.
Seems like a message that worked, at least in his race. Currently, he's leading 47%.
Yeah, and sometimes it comes down to candidate quality too. But Rep. Andrews has been really visible in the district. He's been his constituent service is top notch. That's the majority of the job. Yep. And it's hard to explain to folks sometimes that it's more than just pushing the red or green button when you're up there.
Right.
I mean, that's a big part of the job, but it's the committee work. It's the work you do locally with your constituents. And he's one he's done town halls on different types of issues and different, everything from short-term rentals to everything else. And he's been pretty active in the legislature, and he comes up with a victory. I was not surprised by that one.
Yeah.
And that race was not on the top 10 race in the state of Michigan. It was not even ranked as one that could possibly flip. The ones more likely to flip were those ones that we just talked about, Macomb, Downriver, and some other places.
Berrien County, we do have 100% of their precincts reporting now. So let's go through some of those races. Let's look first at countywide. For Berrien County Prosecutor, Republican Amy Byrd defeating challenger Democrat Trevor Mayvell 58 to 40%. Berrien County Sheriff Chuck Haidt defeating his independent challenger Al DeBrito pretty handily 73 to 24%. For County Clerk, Republican Stacey Lohr Porter wins against challenger, the opponent in that race, rather, Democrat Jessica Jackson, 57 to 42%. Unopposed, County Treasurer Shelley Wyke, Drain Commissioner George McManus after a primary, and Register of Deeds Laura Freeling. So they're all in office. In the races for Berrien County Board of Commissioners, Democrat Commissioner Mamie Yarborough leading in her race, 81%. Against Michael Sleep, who has 17%. Democrat Commissioner Rayonte Bell leads his challenger, Republican Mary Brown, 52-46. They got a little closer.
Who wants to run against Mamie Yarborough?
Nobody.
I mean,
should.
Come on. She's been on the ballot. I knew Mamie when she was on the Benton Harbor School Board
Yesterday,
back in the early 90s. I mean, Mamie's an institution.
Yesterday,
Good luck.
yesterday, I declared Bob Harrison, County Commissioner Bob Harrison, as one of the nicest guys in Berrien County. And so I think Mamie Yarborough probably has one of the nicest people in Berrien County as well.
Listen, there's a lot of guys I think I could beat. I couldn't beat Bob Harrison. I said running against Bob Harrison is like running against Santa. I mean, you're just not going to win that one.
He makes toys. What?
Yeah, no. I mean, he's just well known.
No, he's very nice,
good
very popular.
Guy, does a great job.
Wicked smart. Yeah.
He's at every township board meeting. He's at every community event. He listens. He gets stuff done.
Yeah.
You don't want to run against him. Now the interesting seat that in Berrien County, and I think Alex Ott got some help from the top of the ticket.
Okay. Alex Ott currently leads
Janet Henderson.
Janet Henderson, 52-47.
Yeah, a pretty accomplished candidate who ran a really good campaign from what you could tell down south. I mean, signs don't vote, and I've said that a number of times, and to a number of people vote, not signs. But
what do you mean by that?
Well, signs, a lot of times,
like yard signs and that
Midwest
kind of thing.
Nice,
yeah.
Right? If you go to somebody and say, "Hey, can I put a sign in your yard for 30 days?" A lot of times they'll say, "Well, they don't want to tell you no."
Yeah.
Right. But the sign doesn't vote. It's the person living in the building that votes.
Right.
And while signs show support, they don't exactly match up with vote totals.
Yeah. And so that, let's see, let's take a look at those two races. Alex Ott leading Democrat challenger Janet Henderson, 52 to 47%, and Republican Sharon Tyler in her first race for county commissioner. Yep. She's currently county clerk, but she's going to be county commissioner. It looks like she leads with 55 to 44% against Democrat challenger Jessica Gomez, who put up better numbers than I think many were expecting.
And one of the numbers you can look at for you political geeks out there who really like looking at numbers is Niles. Niles is the swing area of Berrien County, and Niles has been the bellwether. Whichever, I mean, they voted for Clinton, they voted for Obama, but they've also voted for Trump.
Okay.
So if you look at Niles, Niles is the perfect swing seat, and it is a bellwether. It is an actual predictor of who's going to win the presidency. Usually is who wins Niles, Michigan.
Okay, we'll take a look at those numbers. We've got more numbers to look at, and we have sports. That's coming up next with Dave Wolf. We've got that right here on the WSJM Morning Show, and then we'll continue some political ramifications talk. We'll talk about what it means for Lansing here in just a few moments with Al Pasholka. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Not only was Tuesday election day, but it was also the NFL trade deadline. The Lions made a move to
All right, back on the video live stream with exclusive content. So, I mean, was this messier than you anticipated? Was it cleaner than you anticipated, Al?
I thought we'd be waiting till Wednesday or Thursday to possibly have a winner. So the fact that I think about midnight, 12:30 last night, you could look at those trends and you could look at those swing states and say it looked like President Trump was going to win again. But you didn't know the down ballot impact. And we're starting to feel that this morning as Republicans will probably pick up a couple more seats in the United States Senate. Bernie Moreno knocked out Sherrod Brown. I mean, Sherrod
saw
Brown
that.
was an
Yeah.
institution in Ohio.
He's been there for a long time.
Been there. He was running for his third term.
Hang on 1 second. We
Yep.
got to get back on the air
All right.
here.
A shower or two as well. Temperatures start out in the upper 50s, will drop to the low 50s this afternoon. Tonight, overnight, partly cloudy all the way down to 40. And tomorrow, a mix of the sun and clouds with a high of only 57. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
7:21. Uh-oh. What do you got? What's the ooh?
No,
What's the
we,
you?
Well, we were talking about the state house here
Yeah.
a little while ago, and now I'm looking at those 4 seats.
Okay.
Republicans flipped the 58th, which was in Macomb County. They
Okay.
knocked out an incumbent.
Wow.
The 27th, which is the downriver,
All right.
they won that one. The 44th, which is Battle Creek, kind of Calhoun County, that's been kind of trending Republican the last couple of cycles. Jim Hadsma, who is a 3-term state rep, got knocked out. And this is the one that kind of shocks me. The Republicans won a seat in Marquette.
Oh,
So
that's not
I'm
usual.
sure they didn't win Marquette proper,
Yeah.
but those tend to be big.
Districts
There's a
up there.
lot of expanse and
Sure.
geography in the UP, but the Republicans took a seat in Marquette. So those were the 4 flips
Wow.
that they got to get to 58. So when you get majority, that means you get the gavel.
Mm.
And so, the speaker is in the room where it happens with the governor and the Senate majority leader, and you control all the committee chairs,
Okay.
which is really important.
So when will we start to see this happen? Is there going to be a lame duck session? Do you anticipate? Yeah.
I'm going to Lansing, guys.
Oh, boy.
No, I'm going to be spending some time up there. I would anticipate that any policy bill that Democrats feel very strongly about will move in lame duck.
Okay.
It is going to be crazy. It'll
Yeah.
be a wild lame duck session up there.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be interesting to watch.
No,
Book
it
the
really
hotel
will.
room
I
now.
mean, because right now they've got the trifecta. The Democrats have the trifecta. They are going to try to pass everything they've ever dreamed of. Will come up in lame duck.
How likely are those things to hold? I mean, before the elections, they were talking about dealing with things like the tipped wage credit and all
Yeah.
that, just things that spoke to very broad populations. They weren't talking about Democrat agenda items. They were talking about broader items.
Yeah.
So you're saying
Data
that'll,
centers. I mean, we're still waiting on
Still
a
waiting on
data
the tax
center
credit?
bill that
the tax
for
treatment.
sales tax.
Yeah.
For sales tax.
I mean, do those kinds of things come through in this kind of
Yes.
lame duck session?
Yes.
Okay. What else
Mhm.
comes through, and do those things stick?
I mean, it's anything you've had on your dream list. If you're a
More
member of the-
transparency on state government?
I doubt
I guess
it.
that will not happen.
No, that probably won't. That probably will not move.
Yeah.
But everything that's on their agenda or on their list that they haven't gotten done.
Yeah.
I think they did want to do some more gun bills. I think there's some other things out there that they're going to try to run, and lame duck is the time to do it.
Okay. All right. It's
Some
7.
people hated lame duck. I loved it.
Oh, really? Why?
It was an opportunity to make a deal. It was an opportunity to, I'll be honest, it was an opportunity for me to bring some money back to my district.
Yeah.
And especially when I was chair of approach. So lame duck was very good. And it's just long, hard nights, and you just grind through it. But lame duck can be a lot of fun.
So we'll have to watch for
Yeah.
that. And we've got some representation there, both Republican and Democrat. So good opportunity to strike a deal of some sort. 724, we're talking with Al Pasholka on the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. We've got election results coming up. We were talking a moment ago about, you brought up coattails, down ballot, how things did. Just looking at Michigan's numbers. So if you went to if you were a voter and you said, okay, well, I got to figure out where I'm going to vote on either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, and you decided, okay, I've got some other things to deal with here, the U.S. Senate race. So in the presidential, Donald Trump got 49.9% here in Michigan. Kamala Harris, 48.17%. Different numbers, not drastically different numbers, but some people split off. Mike Rogers, 48.5%. Alyssa Slotkin, 48 and 0.4%. I mean, so very close, dead even there. Why didn't those folks who voted for Trump also vote for Mike Rogers?
Not everybody's comfortable going straight ticket. In
Yeah.
Michigan, traditionally, we are ticket splitters,
Mm-hmm.
and we are people that will vote the person rather than the party. So some of that is just people being willing to sit there and split their ticket.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I like this person here and this person there.
Call me
and
crazy.
Maybe,
It just
maybe
doesn't-
my local,
Yeah.
maybe I like a local candidate, so I can't vote straight party. So I'm gonna pick and choose
Okay.
all the way down the ballot. And Michigan traditionally has been a ticket splitting state.
It just seems to me, if you go and call me crazy, if you go in and you vote for Donald Trump, you're probably not going to vote for Alyssa Slotkin. I don't know. Am I crazy?
Yeah, you are.
Never ask a question you want an honest answer to. No, it's very interesting. I'd like to see in the minds of some of those voters. It'd be interesting.
Well, but she has some appeal to
Okay.
the other side, and if you looked at some of her advertising and the way that Alyssa Slotkin was one of those Democrats who said President Trump signed one of my bills.
Oh, okay.
And towards the end, we saw that in Pennsylvania with Bob Casey. We saw it. Sherrod Brown did it in Ohio.
Yikes.
Alyssa Slotkin did it in Michigan, where they actually featured President Trump and said, well, I can be bipartisan, and look at Trump
Oh.
signed my bill.
Okay.
So some of that was going on as well.
Yeah. I want to peel back some of the layers of what you think happened in the presidential with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So we'll talk about that. We'll start that conversation on the video live stream in just a moment here. We've got to get away for some commercials here on the radio, though. We'll also come back and have the Bloomberg Market Minute, a lot of market activity going into yesterday's elections, and a lot more is going to be coming out. Basically, the markets are expecting to roar today. We've seen that from some of the analysts. So we'll talk about that with Bloomberg in a minute. We'll also have another special report from ABC, and then our local check on news, some of the results that you've been waiting for right here on WSJM.
Have you been thinking about
Call me crazy. Back
Am
up.
I crazy?
Yes, you are crazy. Who isn't? Let's take a quick look at what we've got on the video live stream for the comments this morning. Bill says, good morning, guys. Good morning, Bill. Good to see you. Diane says, good morning, all. Good morning, Diane. Let's see. James Bingham says, Carl Bonac won the House seat in Marquette. He was a
Yes.
TV meteorologist. Oh,
Yes.
that says to
Yep.
me name recognition.
Big time name recognition. Yep,
Okay.
Yep. He's been on the air.
Thanks, James.
He was in your living room for years up there.
Wow, for
So
40
he was
years.
a very attractive candidate. The other one is, I'm going to have to check this.
Yeah.
The 58th, I believe, we have a WSJM alum
Oh,
who won a House seat,
what?
Ron Robinson.
No
and I
kidding.
believe if it's the same Ron Robinson that I know, and he was marketed as radio personality, Ron Robinson. He worked here
Huh.
back in the 2000s. I know I spent some time at WJR in Detroit.
Okay, yeah,
He had
yeah.
his own kind of production company. And I believe it is Ron Robinson who's the representative-elect in the 58th House District. So some WSJM listeners might remember Ron from his time
Alumni.
doing the news here.
You gotta like that. Okay.
So we've had a
So there's
couple
a
of guys.
future
Yeah,
yet.
there's a couple of us that survived WSJM and did a heck of a lot better, Ken.
Yeah.
There's hope for you. Your career is
I'm going
not
the wrong
done
way.
yet.
I'm going the
it's
wrong
not over.
No, it's good. For those who don't know, when did you first speak on the air for WSJM? You remember the year?
Yeah, because you guys bought us. I remember it very well. It was
Cozy.
1992.
Okay, 1992.
Yeah.
That was when Bill Clinton was about to
Yes.
win election.
Yeah.
Is that right? About to win?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from 1992 till now, the offices you've held, give us the highlights.
Lincoln Township trustee. I served 8 years on the township board, and I tell people if you're thinking about running for the state house, there's no better training ground than serving on your local township board, city commission, village council. I mean, it's
But
just
why is that?
great training for
Yeah.
that. So when you get to Lansing,
Yeah.
and I knew what a general fund was, I knew what a restricted fund was, I knew how to serve on a board, how to chair a committee, how to do those types
Process,
of things.
right?
And when I got to Lansing, I looked at some of my colleagues who they had never done that, and they looked like deer in headlights for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
So a great opportunity to serve in Lincoln Township, and I served on the Water Authority board and worked with Bob Judd and the water wars here back in the day, and then ran for the State House in 2010 after being on Fred Upton's staff for 8 years.
Yep.
And served in Lansing for 8 years. I served 3 years in the House, and then I was Governor Snyder's budget director for his last 2 budgets up in Lansing.
You know numbers.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, that's the scary part, because my legislative staff said, don't ever give Al the wrong number, because he doesn't forget numbers. And so if you give me the wrong number, I'll repeat it.
That's excellent. Well, no, thank you for joining us,
Yeah.
and we appreciate your views here today. We've got, let's see, a couple commercials are running, Bloomberg Market Minute, and then we'll have to come back for our news. The 107 days that Kamala Harris had to try to convince voters that she was the one. Apparently, that was not enough time.
I don't think she ran the right campaign. I think by not allowing her to answer questions and position herself better, that did not. And whoever thought of that, I think, did the candidate a bit of a disservice. And then she did not differentiate herself from President Biden when she had the opportunity. When you're on a show like The View,
yeah,
and it's very, very friendly.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll get into legacy media too if you want me to.
Sure.
But this is the death of legacy media, because 90% of the stories were negative to Trump and positive to Harris, and it didn't matter, which tells me people have stopped believing them.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back with more on the WSJM Morning Show.
WSJM.
Oh boy, if you're not on the video live stream, you're missing a lot, because we are unfiltered, and we're talking about what happened in some of the elections. and
I've only called Ken crazy once.
I'm Ken Lundberg.
For the record.
The show is called Ken and Friends, by the way.
I didn't say what kind of friend.
What kind of? Al Pasholka is here with me this morning. We're unpacking a lot because of the historic elections that happened yesterday. And who would have thunk at this time last year that we would have seen everything we saw, and then the result that appears to be materializing now?
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, you had indictments, you had assassination attempts, you had. We've never had a debate before a convention.
Right.
So they have a debate June 27th.
Yeah. It changed the whole face of the race.
Changed the whole face of the race, because then President Biden drops out in the 3rd week of July, and then President Biden endorses his vice president.
Yeah.
And when he did that, any talk of having a mini primary or some sort of
Out the window.
open convention went completely out the window. So some Democrats that I was talking to last night, as they were doing their postmortem and their autopsies, said Biden should have gotten out earlier, or he should have gotten out after the 22 midterms. When the Democrats did better than expected. There was supposed to be a big red wave. There was not.
Yeah.
They took the House, but barely. And that way you'd had an open process, whether it was Kamala Harris or Governor Whitmer or Newsom or whoever else was going to possibly get involved. The rising star you hear about is Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. He was not selected as the vice president. That was another that was a questionable call too.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this in just a moment. We've got to get a special report in from ABC News, the latest on the elections across America. It is the WSJM Morning Show.
This is a special report from ABC News. Your voice, your vote. I'm Sherry Preston.
We're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help.
Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, will be the 47th president of the United States as well. He is projected to take the White House again, with wins in the swing states of Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
This has been a remarkable campaign, unlike any other in American history. I've been covering Donald Trump now for 591 days since his very first rally of this campaign cycle in Waco, Texas. A twice impeached former president of the United States, who at one point during this campaign was spending more time in a courtroom than out on the campaign trail.
Republicans also won control of the Senate with key flips in Montana, Ohio, and West Virginia. As for the House, it's too early. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
All right, we are continuing coverage, election coverage, post-election coverage here on the WSJM Morning Show. And just taking my special guest this morning is Al Pashulka. Let's run through the news real quick of what we've got. A look at some of the state and local election results with most reporting. I think at the last point, what do we have? 89%? Yeah, 89% reporting. Right now, Republican Mike Rogers leading Democrat Alyssa Slotkin by less than a percentage point. And actually, if you do the math, it's probably by 3,000.
Yeah.
3,000 votes separate him, a little more than 3,000.
It depends now what's still out there. So
out of 5.2 million
votes.
Yeah.
It depends what's out there still and what isn't counted. Normally, traditionally, Wayne County is the last to get all their votes in. But you look at some of those urban areas, Trump did much better in the urban areas than projected. And big cities, this is a weird coalition.
Yeah.
That not weird, but it is a different coalition for Republicans, and I hope they realize this now. You've got Latino voters, you've got African American voters, you've got working class voters, you've got a different coalition, a different Republican Party than you used to have. And traditionally, Republicans have always been known as kind of the country club folks, and that's not the case anymore.
Yeah. And by the way, just looking at the impact of third, fourth, fifth party candidates in this race, I mean, because they've got 3,000 votes separating the top two vote getters. 3,000 votes separate Mike Rogers from Alyssa Slotkin, and that could very well flip here as more votes come in. But let's see, 55,000 went to the Libertarian in the race. 47,000 votes went to the Green Party. 40,000 votes went to Dave Stein. Sorry, I don't know Dave Stein.
No.
Or
I know Jill Stein.
Or
Dave
Doug Dern.
Stein.
Doug Dern got 18,000 votes. If you took Doug Dern out of the race, where did those votes go? Dern Doug.
It's the Doug Dern factor.
It's the Doug Dern factor.
Hey, Republicans have not won the Michigan U.S. Senate since
30 years.
1994.
Spencer
Abraham beat Bob Carr.
Yeah. Amazing. Other races to talk about, U.S. House of Representatives. Those races seem settled. District 4 and 5, respectively, Republican Bill Huizenga and Tim Walberg winning their races. In the state House, looks like we'll keep all the incumbents, Republican Brad Paquette, Republican Pauline Wenzel, and Democrat Joey Andrews. He's currently leading his challenger, Kevin Whiteford. Last check, 52-47%.
Yeah, I think that one's in the books.
Okay.
And then the Republicans pick up those 4 seats, Downriver, Macomb, Battle Creek, and the UP. So the Michigan House flips to Republican control starting in January.
So you now have a Democrat governor, a Democrat Senate, and a Republican
but
House.
Here's what's more here's an interesting little tidbit for you is now who's the speaker? So there is a little speaker race up there. Matt Hall was the minority leader.
Okay.
He will be challenged, and traditionally, having been in a speaker's race myself,
you almost won.
It's the only race I ever lost, and I'm kind of glad I did.
Okay,
because I ended up where Harry Gast said I should end up in chair of approps. But traditionally, you do that the day after the election.
Oh, really?
Oh,
So
yeah.
today,
No, it's and so everybody who's brand new runs to Lansing in the next. If it's not today, it's probably tomorrow. To have leadership elections for January.
Who?
Because then you've got to start planning.
Yeah.
Who's going to be on your committees? Who's going to be committee chairs? So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes from now until January when you come in to govern. Yeah. That's the same thing with what Trump's going to have to do nationally.
Sure.
With his
Cabinet
transition
and everything.
team, and he's got 3,000 jobs to fill.
Yeah.
That the executive gets to fill
The
with
appointees.
political appointees.
Yep, who work in the different cabinet
Yeah.
agencies and different areas as well. How important is that speaker role, especially when you're talking about one half of one branch of state government being in control by Republicans?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you can gum up the works. You can cut all sorts of deals. You got to have all three, right? So that what we used to say in Lansing was you got to have 56, 20, and 1. Right? 1 being the governor, 56 in the House, 20 in the Senate, in order to pass anything.
Who do you think is going to run for House Speaker? Speaker of the
I know
House?
Matt Hall is in for sure.
Okay.
He is being challenged. The guy's name escapes me right now, but he does have a challenger, and that challenger had done fairly well with some of the new members coming in. And that's the weird thing about these leadership races. And when I had to go out and meet people, and I would knock doors for them and I would make contributions to them, but they had never worked with me. They had never seen me in Lansing or the way that I would be a leader. They were just doing it based on that initial contact. And that's risky, right? And that's where term limits hurt us a little bit. Because you haven't built those relationships with anybody and you're coming in brand new. And it's between these two people, so first impressions count a lot.
We'll talk about more on the state side, more on the national side, what happened in those races. But let's cover Berrien County quickly. On countywide races, Berrien County prosecutor, Republican Amy Byrd over challenger Democrat Trevor Mayville, 58 to 40%. So that one's wrapped up. Berrien County Sheriff Chuck Haidt has defeated independent challenger Al DeBrito handily, 73 to 24%. County Clerk, Republican Stacey Lohr Porter, has won her first race for that office against challenger Democrat Jessica Jackson, 57-42%.
And all of those are 57, 40, 50. Those are base votes that came out of the county last night. And those numbers or those spreads, again, I think a lot of them came from the top of the ticket.
Yeah. On commissioner race, we already talked about these. We can cover those again at 8 o'clock this morning. Let's see what else. St. Joseph, if you're looking at the public schools operating millage, that was leading at last check with approval. Also, same for the sinking fund millage renewal. We'll go check to make sure those numbers are still good. But at last check, they were 60 and 63% approval.
It was a pretty tight race in Lakeshore, too, with the Lakeshore School Board. And it was Bigley and Wade.
Yeah, who won?
Bigley and Wade outlasted Holly Goodline by, I think, 200 or 300 votes. That was a really tight election.
Okay. Berrien Springs Community Library millage leading with approval 59 to 40. New Buffalo Area Schools operating millage proposal leading with approval 63 to 36%. Van Buren County, as we mentioned earlier, Representative Pauline Wenzel reelected. County elected officials, including the sheriff, the prosecutor, the treasurer, the clerk, the drain commissioner, and the surveyor, all Republicans, no opposition. Register of Deeds, Paul DeYoung.
I just laugh at surveyor. Anyway, I'm not picking on you, John Comer, but I mean, some of these counties, they need to be updated.
Register of Deeds, Paul DeYoung faced a Democratic challenger, but still won handily in contested elections for the Van Buren County Board of Commissioners. Gail E. Patterson Gladney, Kurt Duro, am I saying that right?
Doro. Yeah.
And Paul Shinkarel. Shinkarel.
Oh, Shinkarel. Yeah.
Yeah, Shinkarel all won.
Yeah.
The rest of the races were uncontested. As for ballot proposals, the city of Bangor approved a road millage renewal, as did Antwerp Township, and Bloomingdale Township rejected a road millage. Paw Paw Township approved a senior services millage renewal, as did Waverly Township. Waverly Township also approved a road millage. And finally, the sinking fund millage was renewed at Gobles Public Schools.
Yeah, renewals seem to have done pretty
They
well
did.
in this cycle. Renewals, okay. Increases, not so much.
Yeah. All right, we'll have more coming up in just a moment. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We've got sports coming up after this look at state news.
The Michigan News Network.
I'm Beth Fisher.
And my friend this morning, who has already called me crazy, just once though, is Al Pasholka. Hi, good morning. Ken Lundberg here. It's the WSJM Morning Show, 7:49. And that was well-deserved, but it's fine. Hey, what's not crazy, we told you that the numbers would flip or they'd get updated and races would tighten. Just getting this in, that Alyssa Slotkin is now leading in the U.S. Senate race. Somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 votes.
Yeah, got to be some of those East Side votes, that the Wayne County votes that are now getting dumped in, and that's probably for Mike Rogers to be this close is actually kind of surprising. I mean, he wasn't polling that close, but he led most of the night.
I know we've got to get you out of here, Al. Parting thoughts on kind of what we saw in the last 24 hours.
Well, it was a political resurrection that we've never seen in this country, for someone to come from where he was when he left office and failed to even attend the inauguration of the guy who beat him.
Yeah, you're talking about Donald Trump.
Talking about Donald Trump, and through all the stuff, whether it's the court cases, the lawfare, and whoever thought of the lawfare deal for the Democrats ought to be fired too.
Lawfare.
Yeah, I just think some of these court cases, they just didn't sound right. I mean, you're charging things that normally just wouldn't get charged.
I see.
And just the court cases, the assassination attempts, that let's hope this happens, Ken. The Republicans don't spike the ball.
Yeah.
And the gaslighting of the country stops with all of the identity politics and all of the stuff that we've experienced in the last few years. And let's get back to where we can actually have a conversation again, where Republicans and Democrats can sit there. It can happen. I saw it when I was in the State House. I had some really good friends who were Democrats, and I could not have passed 64 bills if I didn't have help from the other side. And so hopefully we can get to that, and we can stop the divisive politics that I think have hurt families, that have hurt communities. And let's stop with the identity politics. Stop with the gaslighting, and please, legacy media, get back to just giving us the news.
Yeah. One last question. What do you think the message should be or is from last night's results, and how should that? You just talked about how it should be taken, but what do you think really made the difference in a lot of these?
There is a realignment. People were told things, and I think people were talked down to and felt they didn't have a political home, and they were willing to look at the other side. Now, remember, I think it was 4 years, maybe 8 years ago, Donald Trump would go to a place like Detroit or Chicago and say, "What do you got to lose?" And I think they took him up on it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot was made in the legacy or mainstream media of his comments about Detroit while he was in Detroit. Didn't seem to matter.
No.
Didn't seem to matter. He did well there.
Yeah.
All right. 7:52. Al Pasholka, thanks for joining this morning. We appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend. Off to the Board of Health.
Enjoy.
Don't vote on the minutes yet. I'm on my way.
Enjoy. We'll be back with more
Thanks,
in
buddy.
just a moment. Thank you. All right. Thank you for joining us on the WSJM Morning Show. I was joking with Al just a moment ago that he said nobody got hurt in our interview today. That's true. No feelings hurt, no anything. But also, I did not ask him about the Lakeshore Lancers, and he was immediate, like without even missing a beat, said next year. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up the video live stream here so I can go check some more election results. I don't want to bore you with that, just to make sure that we have the latest, greatest numbers. It is the WSJM Morning Show. Thank you for joining us. Wednesday. Tomorrow, we have a special guest coming in to join us in the studio. Berrien County Commissioner Bob Harrison. He faced no opponent in the election yesterday, and I think he got 96% of the vote, something along those lines. But we thought we'd talk to him a little bit about some of his views, his opinions on the election, Berrien County, where we're going in the next year or so, a couple of years, and anything else that's on his mind. I know he's got a lot of interesting perspectives on things, including speed limits. We'll talk about that, I imagine, here in Berrien County. So all that is coming up tomorrow on the WSJM Morning Show on the video live stream. We're going to say goodbye. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for doing your civic duty of voting yesterday if you did.